It all starts with a nervous Dr. Ellen and a lot of people looking through her glass window. Two men bring in Sergeant Linden Stiles, who is strapped to a stretcher. A priest leans in and tells him there is still time for him not to do this. He begs Linden to confess his sins, but Linden is certain because he did not murder those people. The doctors start working and put a needle in his arm. The crowd sits down and waits anxiously for the show to begin. The light turns on and the injections start to go through the tube into him as he passes out. The doctor then checks and announces him to be dead. The time of death is 12:11 a.m. But then Linden suddenly wakes up. General Post is there to meet him and offers a deal. Linden either accepts to be part of a secret military project or he will be killed. Sounds like an easy decision to make. Linden wants to know what the experiment is, and Post explains. If he survives, he'll be given a new identity, a place to live, and a large amount of cash. Linden keeps asking questions, but he's just wasting his time. But now, it's time to make a decision, and if he says no, then he'll be committing suicide. That would be going against his religious beliefs. So Post tells the doctor to leave because that is a yes, and before Post leaves, he tells him that Dr. Ellen will be there to examine him. Linden is locked in a small glass-covered cell, with scientists around him and his ankles being chained. The glasses get covered and he can barely see what's going on outside. Later in the day, they open his pod, and Dr. Ellen introduces herself and that she will be taking some samples from him. He tries to tell a joke, but she doesn't find it funny. Ellen is scared of him, so she gets some guards to stand next to him while she draws some blood. She is worried because he supposedly killed 11 people in cold blood. He tells her that the only people he killed were all because he was following orders during the war. He convinces her that he never killed any of the people he was accused of killing. But she is sure because she followed the case on TV. Linden says he was framed, probably by the people she's working for, because he refused to kill a foreign diplomat they wanted assassinated for political reasons, and he publicly spoke against the military and the government. She is convinced by the DNA evidence, but he assures her that he is not a monster. She takes a skin sample, but she can't tell him anything about the experiment no matter how much she asks. He keeps suggesting things, and so far, he seems to be alright. She tells him to get some rest to prepare for the experiment. They leave him in the cell, and it closes back up again, and he starts reading his Bible inside. If you're enjoying this recap, don't forget to subscribe. Post tells Ellen about her first encounter with Linden. She is a professional and is here to do her job, so there are no emotions attached to the experiment. Post upgrades her security level, and he's about to show her something classified. When the crate opens, there is a body of an alien in there. They want to make the DNA of the alien compatible with Linden's DNA. She is given the samples. The alien was brought here over a year ago. It was intercepted by a fighter pilot. She takes a sample as he tells her the crashed object is part of a much larger ship. The parts seem like they came from two different aliens, and they don't have enough parts to reconstruct their looks using computers. But they know that their DNA is very similar to humans, and now they want to combine the DNA with Linden. Their experiments on primates show the alien DNA takes over the host quickly and kills them. They show her scans of the DNA and they look very similar, closer to anything else on Earth. She now thinks it is possible, but is concerned about leaving Linden to a painful death. But the man assures her that they will need the data to defend Earth from the aliens. Well, okay, seems fine if you put it that way. Ellen goes back into Linden's cell, but she's not here to collect a sample. But before she could say anything, General Post walks in and Linden stands up to greet his commander. Post thinks this is all his fault because he revealed all the secret information about his mission to the public. Post is mad because the man Linden refused to kill wouldn't agree to a peace talk, but Linden doesn't think it was right to kill him. That's when Ellen tells him they are planning to inject him with alien DNA. He is shocked by this and it even makes him laugh. When he asks about his chances for survival, she tells him that the DNA is similar and there is a strong chance for survival, but he will not be the same. General Post tells them to start the experiment, but before he could walk out, Linden reminds him that he let him down at the trial for not testifying for his innocence. So now, he is ready for whatever the experiment might bring. Post says goodbye and walks out. The experiment is about to start, and Ellen brings a series of injections and tells him to take off his clothes and to lay down. They strap him to the chair, as Ellen warns him that the injections might be painful. But surprisingly, Linden says he forgives her for what she is about to do to him, and she continues to proceed with the injection. Soon, Linden is starting to sweat and shake. They run to help him up, and the monitoring continues. He is still reading his Bible as his teeth start to fall out. Soon after, he keeps reminding himself that even if they change his body, they cannot touch his soul as he sits on the ground. As the door opens, Linden is now scared because he wants the injections to stop. But Ellen is here just to take samples, but he wants some clothes. He is still certain that he didn't kill those people because he wasn't even there when they died. But when he shows her his hands, there are some horn-looking things coming out of them, and it shocks her. Later on, Linden has gone completely crazy, screaming out that he didn't kill anyone and that he is innocent. Ellen tells the doctor that Linden's brain is expanding at a fast rate, and there are masses all over his body that she can't explain. The pain is making him crazy, so they need to slow it down. She is concerned that his innocence might be affecting him, and the doctor just tells her to admit it to him. He is still screaming inside his cage about his innocence until he collapses. They run inside to see what's wrong. They rip his shirt, and it doesn't look normal at all. So she injects him with adrenaline, but there are no signs of life, so they move on to the defibrillator. She shocks him twice, but nothing happens. They can't get him back up, and she's very frustrated as he lays on the ground. But shockingly, he starts breathing again. Linden is alive, and he's grown another heart. But he's still saying that he's innocent. I'm not a judge, but one might think he really is innocent. He doesn't feel the pain anymore, and he is now sure more than ever and grabs her to ask if she does too. He asks her how much more he'll change, but she isn't sure. She thinks the worst parts of the experiment are behind them. They lift him back to the bed and she checks on him. She even tells him her name. Later on, Linden is disfigured more than ever, and he's sitting inside a different chamber. They have him in a highly pressurized chamber, but he's fine, meaning that the aliens are much more adaptable to changing conditions than humans. He's even grown 5 times stronger than the average human. She thinks that his other senses have also improved. At least something positive came from this experiment. The doctor walks up and talks to him through the mic, but Linden hears him without it. He didn't tell anyone because he was taught to never show his advantage to the enemy. The doctor says they're both on the same side of history, and that Linden is making a big sacrifice and walks away. That night, Linden is walking in his cell when he realizes that he can easily take off his chains. He takes off all the monitoring equipment and jumps out of the cell. The guards don't shoot him, so he jumps onto the roof. The rest find out that he's escaped, and now it's time for phase 2 of the experiment. The general goes to the phone and tells troops that the hunt for Linden is in motion. Ellen asks what's going on. They let him escape because they want to know exactly how to hunt down the aliens, and they are willing to sacrifice Linden to do so. They don't know what the aliens want, so it's best to know what they are capable of before anything bad happens. This doesn't sound like the best idea. Outside, Linden breaks through the electric fence and escapes into the woods. He runs quickly across the forest and gets to a small river. He has changed completely into an alien now, and he sees himself through a reflection. He keeps reminding himself that they can change his body, but not his soul. A truck filled with soldiers is now in the forest, and they all get out with their commander telling them about the mission. There is an alien here, and they are called to capture it before it escapes. They are given permission to use deadly force if necessary. The soldiers move slowly through the forest, trying to locate Linden, but his hiding skills are too good for them to notice how close he is. He is on top of a tree and releases something from his hand to take a soldier. Back at the command center, they get a radio message from Linden. Post picks it up and talks to him. They try to get his location, but he'll be long gone before they can find him. Post asks him to give up, but that's not what the experiment is about. He is supposed to try and escape, but he isn't falling for their trick, and he doesn't want to kill anyone. He now understands more about humans than he did as a man. Something tells me that he doesn't have the best opinion about humans at the moment. He jumps down from the tree and runs off. The soldiers are told to go to the site of the transmission. They hear a noise and immediately start shooting without realizing that it was one of their men. Linden sees this and runs away. Ellen says that this won't prove anything to the aliens. This will only show them how Linden would react to a situation, not the aliens. The soldiers set up on a hill with General Post but can't see Linden. They start moving, and once they're spread out, Linden catches Post and they all point their guns at him. Post tells the troops who Linden is and that he's not a murderer and he was framed by the government. Linden gets a grenade, throws it as a distraction, and disappears. Later on, Ellen walks into her sleeping area and sits at the table to check some documents when Linden comes in from behind. She says she didn't know about the plan. She thinks that he is innocent and he's glad that she finally believes him, but she thinks she can reverse it as he runs out. She chases after him and she walks outside looking for him. His transformation goes too far, and she can't help him. She has a program that might work, and she promises to try, but he isn't sure he wants to be human again. He then gives her a location and a time where they'll meet, and runs off into the forest. The next day, Ellen goes to the location and finds Linden. She brought the injection, but her hand is shaking. Linden doesn't believe her because he knows that she has told the others and there are guns pointed at him right this second. She protests, but he says he would never hurt her, and she tells him the injection was meant to knock him out and that there is no cure. The soldiers come out of the forest and he drops his gun. He tells her to walk slowly, and she does as the soldiers walk towards him. The doctor says Linden has failed, but Linden doesn't see it that way because he is still not a murderer. He still has his soul. Finally, as Linden reaches for the skies, the soldiers take aim to shoot, but he releases a sound that stops them and another alien appears out of thin air, and then more of them start showing up. The soldiers don't know what to do as the alien goes over to Linden and takes him away to start a new life. Then Ellen figured it out. This was a test on humans to see if we're civilized, and we failed the test. And with that, the story ends. The moral of the story is that it's not easy to see people like Linden who are wrongly accused of doing a terrible act with the combination of being betrayed by his own government. And with that, the same government decides to do a terrible experiment on him, which makes him turn into an alien. With that not being enough, humans have once again failed the test to see if they are civilized or not. Better luck next time for us. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next video.